Alright, so today we are actually going to be looking at another vintage Apple device. Today we have the iPhone 5S. The 5S was released in 2013 along with the 5C, but because of the 5C's disadvantages, the 5S won the battle. Way more of these were sold. Everyone liked this one better, and this brought so many new features that are still kind of usable today. Even though Apple killed off the home button this March, you can still use the iPhone SE3 in 2025. For those who watched my iPhone 7 iOS 18 video and are actually wanting iOS 18, the SE3 is the easiest way to get that because Walmart sells them for $150 now. But anyways, let's look at this thing. First off, obvious elephant in the room. How is that font different? The only way you can do that is to jailbreak this. And you have to jailbreak to use a majority of apps on this phone. Otherwise, you might as well just use an iPod Touch 5th gen. Because at this point, iOS 9 isn't too far off from iOS 12 in terms of app support. As you can see, this is running the final version, 12.5.7. So let's look at some apps that are supported on this thing still. YouTube Music works fine. I'll play some music. Yep, YouTube Music works fine. There are ads. iOS 12 is also the last version of iOS with this thing in the middle. You can like, dislike, but you can't. There's no comments, and you can't change the speed at all in this version. As you can see, you'll get that every single time you close the app with a song playing. Apple Maps still works fine. I'm not in Puerto Vallarta right now, but I just scrolled over there. But yep, you can scroll in or zoom in. It shows the temperature there, and in a US city, unlike where I scrolled to, it would show the AQI. Let me show you that. But yeah, scrolling by the LAX airport, it is 35 AQI there right now. In El Segundo, 67. Moving on. YouTube still works. If you installed the YouTube Legacy tweak from the PoomSmart repo. Shorts still work. You can view community posts. I can find I don't think this channel has polls, but you can vote in polls. Baseball fans, you'll like this one. The Fan Food app also still works on iOS 12. Also working on iOS 12 is the Venture app. For any people living in Chicago, you can still use an iPhone 5S as your train ticket. If there's any Karens that are looking, yes, the Yelp app still works on iOS 12. It even works on iOS 7 for some reason. I don't know how, but it does. And also, does the iOS 12 weather app work? Yes, but should you trust it? No. I've used this weather app on iOS 12 before, and it just lied to me multiple times. Funny story, I was actually in Indiana one time, and a mini hurricane supercell hit when this weather app was still showing cloudy with no rain. And here's the iPhone 5S camera quality. This is that said amusement park I was at when the supercell hit. Another picture taken on the 5S was the same amusement park 20 minutes before. The Reddit app no longer works on anything below iOS 15, so you could actually use Red Reader, although you do have to pay to add your own account. You can still at least read posts that are made. Honestly, probably the best use for an iPhone 5S in 2025 is to use it as a Roku remote. Unlike older devices, the 5S is the cheapest device that can be used on WPA3 networks. So even if you have T-Mobile home internet, which locks it to WPA3 by default, you can still use this. That's about all there is to the iPhone 5S in 2025. Would you use it? Probably not. You can't use it as your main phone anymore because it doesn't support VoLTE. Even though it has the technologies, Apple did not implement it until the iPhone 6. I suggest using something newer, like the iPhone SE if you want to use a phone this size as your main phone. This phone has VoLTE, it got up to iOS 15, and it has 2 gigs of RAM instead of 1. Roblox works perfectly on here. I tested some other games on here. I would have tested more apps on here, but both of these are only 16 gigs. Camera on here is 12 megapixels and it does 4K 30, while this is only 1080p 30. But what really matters is iOS 15. This phone still gets some software support by Apple. It actually got a software update back in March. There is an advantage to the 5S though. If you want to use an older device on an older iOS version, the 5S is the phone to go, because you can downgrade this to iOS 10. Well, the SE you can, but you have to use a computer on every boot. The 5S is just pure iOS 10, but unfortunately you need a Mac to do that. Technically the tool does support Linux, but there's something called the checkmate exploit that is required to get the 5S into a restore mode that will allow unsigned firmwares, and it does not work well on Linux, so you should use a Mac if you want to do this. Anyways, that's all I got for you about the 5S 2025. See you again in the next one. Bye.